I'm life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey, DIY ass kickers. This is the Crave More Life Roadshow podcast with guest Tanya Colucci. Tanya Colucci, expert shaman, author, and speaker, is the owner of Sacred Soul Guidance and Tanya Colucci Myofascial Release Therapy. Her powerful Sacred Soul coaching and healing method helps you quickly connect to the joy, purpose, and passion you were born for. Tanya's extraordinary combination of shamanic, bodywork, vibrational sound, and ceremonial healing modalities will be your solution to living in peak health and wellness. Through her signature Sacred Soul coaching process, she uses her spiritual gifts connecting you back to your authentic self to experience deeper levels of joy, purpose, and passion. Tanya hosts powerfully shifting online and in-person group and individual healings, workshops, and retreats. She has co-authored the collaborative book, The Ancestors Within, launching in May of this year, and hopes to release another book at the end of 2021 on personal healing and growth. Tanya can be found at TanyaColucciIMFR.com or www.sacredsoulguidance.com. And all links from today's show will be in the show notes of the podcast. Hi, everybody. This is Tanya Colucci. I'm so happy to have her here. Look at that nice smile. Yeah, this is going to be fun. I can tell. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So Tanya and I just met a few months ago, actually, and I'm really happy that we did because she's kind of got that, she's got that pull to her that, there's something very deep in her that's very supportive and loving. And I think that's what drew me to her. We've actually been in a accountability trio, supporting one another's work. So it's been really awesome to get to know her, and I really am super happy that she's here.
Oh.
So let's just jump right in, shall we? Get right to the meat of the matter. So the podcast is about emotional hits and how we can get through them. And so yeah, that's my first question is, tell us a little bit about your emotional hits.
Well, I would say my emotional hits and what I deal with day to day is that I share custody and navigate a relationship with my son's other mother, and we're divorced. And so my emotional hits tend to be on a day-to-day basis, how to navigate a challenging relationship. And so one thing that really is helpful for me is, staying in the present moment and staying on my side of the street in terms of, interacting from a more present place and a more factual place, and taking emotions out of the equation when there might be some, high conflict emotions and dealing with in a challenging situation, to say the least. So I would say on a day-to-day basis, that's something that I am faced with at all times, and trying to maintain a level of peace and calm and centeredness to be able to complete the work that I complete as a healer. And so I'm finding that it's an ongoing journey of learning how to stay centered in my emotional state of being in my heart and being neutral.
Wow. I can see by the look on your face that's not easy. And I would imagine that, any of the listeners or people watching it on YouTube are going to get the same sense, because it is difficult. How many relationships split in a leaving both parties in a place where they're calm and relaxed about it and chilled and just, let things flow. It's difficult.
Right. Yeah. I would say it's been my greatest teacher and my greatest challenge And so, as a healer, I'm always trying to help my clients with looking at these things that pop up in our life, maybe even unexpectedly, or we don't realize the situation that we were in until we're removed from it. And how can we learn from those challenges on a day-to-day basis? And so for me, I would say we tend to try to shift the focus to the other person, like what they're doing wrong, or they have X, Y, Z, mental health issue or whatever it may be, but really back to yourself and where is it within yourself that is creating that stress restraint. And so for me, it's been my soul lesson sort of all along the way is setting very clear boundaries for myself. And not only does that translate into my relationship with dealing with co-parenting in a divorced situation, but also setting clear boundaries for my work as well. As a healer and a caretaker, I'm always wanting to give and help, but to the extent at which sometimes I give too much of myself and I don't set clear boundaries to nurture and care for myself. So with all of these challenges, and especially this one in particular, it's really brought me into the space of being very clear about what my boundaries are, not only emotionally, but time-wise, financially, all those sort of layers of life that we have to deal with. And so I tend to, sometimes spirit works in the sense that you don't really get the message unless it's super intense sometimes. So, it's through that intensity that really makes you take a look at things and what do you need to shift within yourself in order to be in a place of, being in joy and peace,
Yeah. I love that. It's, so it makes me think of a couple of things. One, that it's kind of the same, it follows the same belief that I do about, we have to take responsibility for our experiences. If we want them to be a certain way, if we want them to be calm, then we have to manage that for ourselves,
right,
as opposed to expecting somebody else to do that for us. Well, she can bend or he can bend, and we have to just figure out how we want it to play out and do what we can on our side, as you said earlier, your side of the street.
yeah.
I think that's so important. And it's also, I was kind of intrigued by, when spirit gives you a message that it's not, well, I guess it's subtle is what you're saying, subtle until it's not.
Yeah, subtle until it's not subtle. When you're not getting the subtle messages, then it kind of hey, wake up.
Yeah, which is neat, because for me, that's just saying that, that spirit is telling us what our purpose is. And if we, if we are kind of, what's the word I'm thinking of, swimming against the current, toward it, then, maybe that's the subtle nudge. And then suddenly it's like, bam, no, girl, have a listen, and here it is.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's tuning into where you feel like you're constantly pushing against, the grain and things. For the most part, I mean, there's always going to be challenges and conflict, but for the most part, there should be ease and flow in the decisions that we make and how we choose to show up every day. And if there's not ease and flow, then there's definitely something that we need to take a look at. Is this really a relationship that we need to be in, or is this really a project that I want to take on next to my work? How does it feel? Is this going to grow and expand me? If not, then, moving into that flow of what would make us feel a little bit more easeful,
Yeah. That's really a good point too, Tanya, because I'm not sure that a lot of women consider that their life can be ease. Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah.
That's certainly true for women that come into my
right.
practice. Yeah. They're not feeling very comfortable at all.
Yeah, I think it's that barrier of fear of when you only know one thing for so long, it's, you need to make a change or a shift. And sometimes that fear or lack of belief that something more magical, magnificent, and joyful can be on the other side, but you have to trust in that, almost like jumping off the cliff. You have to trust that you're making the right decision because you're following what truly is in your heart. And I think if we take a step back, even a lot of people aren't even in tune or in touch with themselves at a heart center. We're so influenced by society, by family beliefs, or even subconscious belief patterns that we have that aren't really in alignment with who we are, that creates a lot of that internal stress and strife. And so a lot of times, like I find with my clients that are wanting to make a big shift or change, but there's fear involved, they haven't really truly tapped into themselves at a heart level to know what is it that they truly want and desire. And stepping into that and honoring that, once you're very clear, it makes all those decisions, I think, a little bit easier, even though they still are challenging and scary, but easier because you know you're standing in your truth, which might not be the truth of everyone else around you, but it's what you have to do in order to live from your heart space more on a day-to-day basis. So I feel that's super important, you know, to touch on too. Is getting people to even recognize what that is, because so many people just don't know, you know.
Yeah, they don't pay attention to it. We're really in sync here, because that's part of my practice as well. Mine's, you know, yours is spiritual, mine's very practical. So it really is about, you know, what do you know about yourself? Know yourself to be yourself. If you don't know who you are and what you need and what you want and you desire, then you really, it's very difficult to use your voice and to speak for yourself or to stand up for what you believe in.
Right.
Yeah. That heart stuff. Understand the heart, right? That was such a big part. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So how would you work with a client to get there? Can you share some of that process?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of clients show up to me by referrals from, initially it might be a referral from a doctor for physical pain in their body, or if a friend or family member has come to see me and they've gone on that deeper healing journey with me, you know, they see a friend that's struggling with something even emotionally or physically, they'll say, oh, you need to go see Tanya. But I like to start with working through the physical body first, because our consciousness flows through the fascial system of our body specifically, which is the connective tissue that connects everything in our body. So everything that we experience emotionally, we experience viscerally in our body as well. And so I work with clients to release the tightness in their body physically that's blocking them from not only feeling better physically, but essentially that's blocking them from fully being able to feel what it is that they want. If they're so out of touch with their physical body, how can they possibly come into themselves more deeply to feel what it is that they want on a more energetic, spiritual, or emotional level?
Right. So can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
So are you saying that by releasing what the body is holding on to, then that frees us to experience the emotion of it fully, which of course is a really good thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what causes that physical tightness or blockage in the body is actually a suppressed emotion that we didn't allow ourselves to fully feel in the moment when it was happening. So, you know, when I ask people if they experience trauma, most people think of really significant things like emotional abuse, sexual abuse, but even something as simple as this last year, what we've all been experiencing with this whole coronavirus and, you know, on every level of it, it's trauma. We've all experienced trauma, and our bodies hold on to those emotions that we've experienced, whether they be fear, anger, resistance. And so a lot of times it'll show up in different parts of our body. So as we release that physically, a lot of times, not only is there a physical release, but there's also an emotional release that will happen at the same time. So the person might start to, you know, cry, or they might have a wave of anxiety or grief or sadness come over them. And it's not really important to know what it's attached to, but more or less to get people back into their feeling intuitive side, to just allow themselves to feel that suppressed emotion that they didn't feel in the moment in time which was happening. And then that therefore increases their awareness. So once we open that up, their awareness of what they want, how they want to feel starts to increase. They didn't realize they were in that state of like clenching and tightening and resisting. And so through opening up that physical body, their awareness increases.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. I love that, you know, the opportunity to express those emotions. And it's something that I advocate too, because I think it's so incredibly important. And it's always interesting. You know, I try to get clients to do it when they're feeling it, as soon as it comes up for them, instead of shoving it down, if they can. And I always suggest that, you know, how can you feel this actual emotion, just the emotion, without attaching any meaning to it about yourself? So, you know, I'm really angry, and while your head is thinking, you know, I really don't have the right to be angry, you know, this is mean of me, I'm this, or I'm really sad, how, well, I just have to get over it. It's always attached to the thoughts and the meaning. So yeah, to be able to separate those is something that I've always felt to be very important.
Yeah. And not in a judgmental way, looking at this from that perspective, but more from the sense of just feeling it and just diving into the sensation and the feeling and what it brings up. To just increase the awareness, because a lot of times it's just from the lack of awareness that we even realize that that's suppressed in there in the first place,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I have something in here that needs to come out because I'm feeling something now. I think this is such a powerful process, and one that everybody needs to go through. Because there is the awareness, and sometimes we're not even aware that we're shoving stuff down, and then the awareness that, as you say, that it creates once you have released, it just opens us up to so much more.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, how it might show up that you're suppressing is in the, I'm feeling anxious suddenly, or I'm feeling, we want to label it as depressed, or I can't sleep, or I'm feeling my back just started hurting, my neck is hurting, so a lot of those are, I like to call the physical body the roadmap to the soul. It is our map to our higher self, or us at a soul level, trying to bring awareness to something that needs healed on a deeper level. And the only way a lot of times to get your attention is to literally stop you in your tracks, whether it's through physical pain or emotional pain, or your inability to sleep. And so using those as tools to actually go inward and to sink into the discomfort of the anxiety rather than trying to avoid it or make it go away. I try to guide clients on how can you dive into that emotion or that feeling as though you're diving under an ocean wave, because you don't want to get clobbered if you were to stand there and let it hit you. You kind of go into the feeling, into the emotion, and then that's where you give yourself permission to actually feel and then let go and release without feeling like you have to sit there and analyze and judge it. It just is, because the grief could be about, let's say there's grief that's there that needs to be felt. It could be grief from a string of things, not just one event or one thing, one loss. So it's just allowing yourself to feel that simple, that emotion of grief.
Yeah. Grief is a big one, isn't it? I mean, it can feels like it lasts forever. I'm not sure that it's anything that we just get over. But yeah, I fully get that, expressing it and being there with it is going to strengthen us to be able to, to manage the loss, wherever the loss is in our life.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Cool work, lady.
Yeah, so it's nice to be able to hold that space for people to be able to do that healing work, and then to see them sort of initially come to me for maybe back pain, and really it was about something else, healing something else on a deeper level, and then they can start to live, more from their heart space with more joy and less, resistance. So helping to guide them through that process of unraveling the layers and getting to the heart of things,
So tell me, because obviously you're a physical therapist. So did you begin that work first, and then go into the spiritual side, or how did all that come together for you?
So I call it my past life, but really this lifetime, I have my undergraduate degree in exercise physiology and my master's in health promotion management. So I was always working with health with people, more wellness programming for corporations and government agencies, and running their internal wellness programming for employee retention and lowering healthcare costs and all that stuff. And it was really through my own healing journey of suddenly I was applying to doctorate programs to become a professor full time, and I literally woke up one day with debilitating back pain out of the clear blue sky. I'm sure there were other subtle messages that I wasn't listening to at the time, but it really stopped me dead in my tracks. I couldn't do anything. I mean, I literally couldn't move my body. I was just, and so I started exploring what it is. How can I get out of this pain? And I went the traditional route through an orthopedic and had all these major things wrong with my spine, but chose not to do surgery or, anything aggressive of that nature. I tried traditional physical therapy and other modalities that really didn't give me a whole lot of relief. I would say I was probably addicted to Vicodin at the time. I was taking it every day just to kind of get through my day with basic daily living. And then I actually met someone during that time that was in meditation. He was actively involved in meditation daily, and he just sort of popped up and showed up in my life and started giving me private lessons on meditation and mindfulness practices. And so that's when I started more of my spiritual journey. So I learned how to do meditation. And then I met someone that was a Reiki master, and I went through all the different levels to learn how to do energy healing. And through this process, as I was going along, I was slowly starting to feel better. And then one day someone actually sent me to a therapist that did myofascial release. And I left, which is the specific modality that I do a lot with people. And I left after that first session, and I would say 80% of my pain was gone.
Wow.
So I realized it was more in the tissues of my body. It wasn't really my spine that was the problem. And so it took me about 2 to 3 years through meditation, yoga, getting treatment and really going inwards that got me out of pain. But it was that trajectory that made me totally shift and realize I wasn't supposed to become a professor and get my doctorate degree. I was supposed to be doing more healing work because it was, so it was through all those modalities that helped me. And so that's when I really started diving more deeply into all of that work.
Wow. Oh, very cool. So I was doing this because it was, it's like that, like what we were talking about, when we are suddenly reminded that we need to be doing something else, when somebody just shows up like that in our life, somebody that we so need and just takes us to a different place that maybe we weren't getting to on our own.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So when you made reference to, when you were talking about that, and talk about an emotional hit, there it is right there. You were talking about that, you spent some time then going inward. So maybe you can describe that process a little bit.
So when I started doing meditation, one of the first things that this gentleman taught me was how to work with the mind and the ego, and realizing that our mind is not really who we are, because it is always there, like the ego standing for edging God out. I'll never forget that. So the ego's job is to always distract us with practical things that it knows really well, so that it actually is a block to us going more deeply within ourselves. And so during that process of learning meditation and going more deeply within, I realized a lot of my own self-limiting beliefs around fear. What is it that I really truly want and desire? And so working through layer by layer, all of those aspects of myself that I didn't really know, because I never really spent time going inwards, because I was always so focused physically on the outer world, like the amount of money that I made, how good my body looked, working out, being successful in my career and focusing on the next achievement, like getting my doctorate degree, that was a lot of that was ego driven. It wasn't really in alignment with who I was at my heart level, but I wasn't aware of that. And so it really forced me to go inwards, to basically to discover myself and to find out who I really was. And I'm still in that process, years and years later. It's always, you just keep coming back to yourself, and as you release all those layers, it just is you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I agree. I think it's an ongoing practice,
right.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's not like we ever kind of get there and say, yay, we're done.
Yeah. I think there's an end destination. The journey is a part of the reward. It's the journey.
Yeah. So would I be correct in saying that the meditation was the piece that had you looking at really calming the mind so that you could actually investigate all that other stuff?
Yeah, I would say that was the key to giving my mind something to do, so that I could really tune more inwards to myself and quieting the mind, which is one of the things that gets us in trouble a lot, because we're always thinking about the past or worrying about the future.
Yeah.
But when we bring ourselves just into this present moment, like really, it's easier said than done, but that's the only thing that really matters, is how are you like right now in this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you, or how do you quiet your mind?
So for me, I I have every morning I have to just sit in quiet to just do some mornings it's 10 minutes, mornings it's 30 minutes, some morning it's more than that. But to just close my eyes, and sometimes I just focus on my breathing and bring it into my heart space. And I just bring all of my awareness down into that space to get my mind quiet before I start the day of going, whatever that, might look like. And just to kind of tune in and get myself in the right place to be able to do the work that I need to do every day. And then at the end of the day, I also try to sit again for just, even again, if it's just for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, to just bring myself back to my heart space. If I feel like I've gotten distracted by being a mom, being a healer, that type of thing, and just bring myself back into my space. And so for me, it's just having the repetition, the daily practice. It's just as much as though I would brush my teeth. And so it's just a simple pause. And sometimes it's just as simple as focusing on your breath. There's so many different techniques you can learn. I mean, in the beginning, I used a mantra to occupy my mind, which is a good tool to use to give your mind something to do so you can just be still inside. So in the beginning, you can try various tools or techniques to get the mind silent, but giving yourself that space to tune in every day, I think, is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to make it that regular practice, I think is really helpful. And I admire you to be being able to do that when you're raising a child, right? That can be a challenge in the morning, but you've obviously made it work.
Yeah. So after I take him to school and I drop him off before I start my day, I give myself that time. And a lot of people, they think you have to sit there for an hour or even a half hour, but even just 10 minutes is sufficient, And I also, when he's here, the time that I have him like half the week, right? So we actually do a practice at night before we start our bedtime routine of reading and get ready for bed, where we sit in my room. I have a little meditation cushion set up, and my wife and my son, we sit there and we have a few readings that we do. So he reads one, like ancient wisdom teachings. Then we have a Bible verse that we read. And then I have like archangel readings that we do. So we each read. And then sometimes I lead him through a short practice. All three of us do a short practice of breath awareness, feeling the energy around us, coming into our heart space. And so I make him a part of the process. So he has those tools. Sometimes it's a 10-minute process and sometimes it's longer, and I go by how he's feeling. If he doesn't want to sit there for the whole time, that's fine, but at least, he gets really into it too. And I think a lot of times we don't give children the credit. They're just never taught those tools, and just starting to teach them the little tidbits, I think, is so important. So then they have a place they can go during their day if they're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or worried about something. Just closing their eyes and breathing into their heart space for 5 breaths can kind of bring them into their body and into their feeling senses and out of their like worry brain,
That's a great gift for kids, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are never, they don't stop. They just keep going all the time. They keep going. But they're not always as carefree, I think, as what we might like. So
Right.
To have a tool that they can use to just chill, like 5 breaths. What a great suggestion for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the other thing that I liked about what you said was the focusing on the breathing alone is enough, and I'm really drawn by that whole sense of, and I always have been, that whole sense of understanding and valuing your heart space, knowing that that's very real in you. It's not just, another organ. It's very real and it's unique to you. So to be able to connect with that, I think is fantastic. Yeah, it's a good, because for me, I struggle sometimes. Like I'll sit down to meditate and then the brain is going, and I find if I wait until after I'm up, it's even more difficult. So I try to do it fairly quickly after I wake up. My kids are gone. My kids are all grown, so I don't have to worry about getting up and making anybody breakfast.
Getting ready for school and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So connecting to that heart space is I think a really great way to go. Yeah, and an easy one.
Yeah.
You don't have to go. You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to know anything. You just have to sit down and let it happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, very neat. So tell us about your, you have a couple of books that, well, one that you have co-authored and one that you are hoping to put out by the end of the year. So do tell.
So part of my work as doing the body work, I'm also a shaman and energy healer. And I like to hold space for people really living from their heart space. And so a part of that healing is ancestral healing. So a lot of the patterns that we have in our current life have been passed down from our ancestors, and energetically is still in our energy field. And so I co-authored a book with 24 other awesome, amazing healers called The Ancestors Within. And so my chapter specifically is around shamanic journeying. And shamanic journeying is actually a way to do more of a guided, purposeful meditation. And you use the drum, a rapid drum beat, in order to actually get your brain in more of a delta state, a relaxed state. So that repetition of the drum beat actually quiets the mind. So you can go on an internal journey to have an experience with yourself at a higher level, with guides, with ancestors, in order to see what wisdom they have for you to bring into this life, into your 3D reality, in order to make shifts or changes. And so I'll be teaching, expanding on that and doing a book on shamanic journey, how everyone is really a shaman inside. We all have those natural healing abilities to heal ourselves. We just need the tools. And so I'll be working on that book throughout the rest of this year as well, bringing that to people on more of a mass scale. So.
Wow. Busy year.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome. And your chapter sounds amazing. Yeah, I can't wait until it comes out. It's going to be a great book for sure. And yeah, your chapter sounds very interesting. So, but I want to just go back a tiny bit because you said we are all shamans. So tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
I mean, in indigenous cultures all around the world, before there was a thing like organized religion, we were all in our tribes of people, and we all would go to nature, into the earth, into spirit, to, whether it was with what we should be eating at certain times of the year in order to heal our body and keep our body well. But there were also medicine people that were there to help heal people. But ideally, everyone actually went on their own journeys internally in order to get guidance for how they should move forward with their life, whether it in terms of family or even hunting, all the basic things. But really all a shaman does, and we're all shamans, is that all that it means is that you travel to non-ordinary reality, which is an altered state of consciousness, to seek guidance, healing, or answers to questions that you have about your life. So really it's about turning your brain off and tapping into you at an energetic level and to consciousness, which consciousness is energy. And so it's merging with that in order to get insights, your higher self, your intuition. And so we all have that ability, but we don't have the tools to know how to do it a lot of times. So we seek guidance or answers from other people, which is, we need guides and helpers. But one of my main things is empower. People are always seeking externally, but really empowering people with the tools that they can tap into that healing themselves within themselves and the answers that they need, rather than going to somebody else for those answers. And so we all have the ability to do that. We just have to have the tools. So therefore, we're all shamans. We're all able to. Just have to tap into it.
Yeah. So what other ways can we tap into it?
I would say, going back to what we were saying earlier, the mindfulness practices, really just going into your heart, because the heart is really the gateway to the soul. And I mean, without bringing religion too much into it, but you see all the images of Jesus pointing to his heart, and there's a flame and a golden ball coming out of his heart. And he was trying to get us the message of coming into your sacred heart, the sacred space of your heart, which is actually an energetic space in our body, which is the gateway to ourselves at a soul level, which essentially is connecting us to our consciousness, which we are all, the concept that we're all connected through the sacred space of our heart. So something as simple as just breathing into your heart space and seeing if you can just drop all of your awareness from your brain down into your body, into that space, and getting into the practice of going inward. Because once you start tapping into that and start shutting off the mind, then that leaves room for the higher wisdom to come in from yourself at a higher level, at a soul level, but also from, guides or ascended masters that might want to be providing you with information and guidance.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. You're going to have all kinds of people practicing now.
I mean, that's just a simple tool, and we just don't ever take the time because we're so distracted by everything,
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It is that distraction. It's that distraction of life that takes over. Yeah. Yeah. It will be very nice just to quiet that. And this is just popping up for me to ask this question kind of out of the blue, but what do you think the whole pandemic stuff, the whole, everything that we've been through as a society, what does that offer us in terms of our inner understanding?
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch, like even with myself and with close friends, but also my clients, because we've been forced almost to go inwards. Like, we're in our home environment, we're in that space. You can't really get distracted by, let's go on vacation to Europe, or, yeah, sure, I'll add that new contract to my list and fly to, and work. So it's forced us to go inwards. And so I think for a lot of people, it has actually made them more connected and made them start to wake up to leading a more heart-focused life around their family and really finding joy and presence in that new experience. But I think for a lot of people, it's also drug up a lot of their shit, that they haven't dealt with, that's really rising to the surface. And for some, it's manifesting in severe anxiety or fear or, things of that nature. But really, all of that is internal that's coming to the surface. So I think you have kind of two sides of the coin that's happening right now. So I really hope that people use this as an opportunity, if there is stuff that's arising within them, to really take a look at it and do some deep healing work, because it's going to come up again, later in life, if we suppress it and push it down and say, no, don't want to deal with that right now, because it's forcing us to go inwards. And then that stuff is naturally going to rise up because there's nothing else to distract you from doing that healing work.
It makes me think about the increase of domestic violence since we've all been locked down. Yeah. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people marriages are ending, relationships are ending because where they might have been able to be in a state of avoidance or denial.
It's like,
it's like, can't deny this anymore. This is what you need to do. Yeah. And so I think it's also Mother Nature's way of having us start to really make some shifts and changes, not only in our own little microcosm, but how can we as a community, expand and grow together to help, heal Mother Earth too, because she's not really in the state of the best right now.
No kidding. Yeah. It made me kind of sad to see that, the waterways are polluted again, and the number of cars on the road. And I kind of liked it when it was quiet and clean. Yeah, but I think, I agree. It's an opportunity to go in, and you're right. I think we've been forced to do that, and it hasn't necessarily been a bad thing. I know, in my life, I can see the benefits in my family.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it wasn't as though, it happened right at the beginning.
Right.
It was very, very stressful in the beginning. It was, well, what do we do and how do we do it? And what can't we do? What can we do? Et cetera, and to be able to kind of get through it to a point where, you can kind of settle that brain down and start to consider what's really happening. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a gift for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I know the memories are starting to pop up on, like Facebook and stuff from when this was around the same time that Elvis started, right? And I definitely pulled back and wasn't able to work as much, but I tend to be the overgiver. So it was actually, even though there was the financial stress that was there last year, there was this awesomeness in being able to wake up and, I live in an area where the weather's nice. We would go on family bike rides, like on the island, and be at the beach, and, just going on adventures outside. Yeah. And then I looked at that, and I've been trying to block out more time now, actually, for myself, and just more downtime, right? And these messages are coming up. I'm like, I kind of missed the beginning of like lockdown when we were like, it was almost like this external force forcing me to stop. But it's now it's like, how do I apply that? Like that felt really good. Now, how do I apply that to my world now that things are kind of getting back to like the way they, you know, more normal in terms of my business and everything like that. So it's been a good lesson for me, you know, to try to apply some of those things that were pushed on me, but now adapting them as a part of my new way of being, you know, more time, less time working, more time with my family, more time with myself, more downtime, and how to balance that all so that I'm nourishing, you know, myself first so that I can be the best mom, that, you know, show up as a healer and be more effective for people and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, it's an opportunity to go inward, right?
Yeah.
As you talked about. Yeah. And it's kind of like a big, in my estimation, it's, you know, it's the universe or whatever you want to call it, giving us that, you know, that knock on the head, you know, on a larger scale that, yeah, it's time, you guys, let's do something about this. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you had mentioned earlier, before actually we started recording, about some other speaking opportunities that you have coming up. Want to share about those?
Yeah, so I'm going to be going with the Ancestral Healing book. I'm actually going to be launching an online virtual shamanic journey series where you can learn how to shamanic journey with me, like live video wise. And then also, I live in Hilton Head, South Carolina area, Bluffton, which is beautiful. It's by the beach. They're actually going to be at the Montage Hotel in July 23rd through 25th. We're going to be hosting a Living Well weekend. So they're going to be bringing healers from all over the world to come and provide healing workshops. And so I'll be presenting to shamanic journey and healing sessions there, as well as doing the opening meditation with Holly Rami. And Deepak Chopra is going to be there that weekend. So that's pretty exciting.
Okay.
And ironically, I met him like 13 years ago in DC, where I used to live, at a book signing that a friend brought me to. And I have a photo with him. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. Like 13 years later, I'm going to be in the same conference with him. It's just, it's awesome how that cycle of life works when you start to like tune in and, you know, live from that space. So I'm excited about that because it'll be an opportunity to share my skills with a different group of people. And then I'm always usually hosting retreats and everything. So I hope to be able to branch back out to do that again now that things are calming down. But I love hosting retreats, healing wellness retreats for people too. So yeah.
Excellent. So the program that you're talking about when we just started now, when is that happening?
In July 23rd through 25th, down here in South Carolina at the Montauk Hotel.
Oh, sorry. No, the online.
Oh, the shamanic journey one. I'm hoping to get that launched here in the next month. So we're gonna putting out the advertising and marketing for it. So
cool. Okay, so accountability, girlfriend. I mean, that's right. That's what we're here for. So
yeah, I know. So that'll come out, and then I'll do a live, like we'll meet weekly for a series of classes, and then I'll record them all, and then they'll be available for people if they can't attend to purchase them. Yeah. You know, as a package, and do it at their own pace and at their own time. So
yeah. And when that's up, it will be on your website?
Yes, my Sacred Soul Guidance website.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. All the any kind of links that we've talked about or any programs or whatever, they'll all be in the show notes of the podcast. So it's all there. So I have two last questions for you. And one is just wondering if there's anything else that you really want the listeners to know. What's really important for them to hear from you?
I mean, I would say for me, some of the hardest choices that we make are the ones where we have to really listen to what our heart is saying that we really need, truly want and desire. And a lot of times people are so afraid to honor their own needs first because, I'm being selfish or whatever it may be. But when we can actually stand in our power in what it is that we truly want and desire and take those steps in our life, whether they're small steps or big steps, energetically, when we do that, especially as a woman, it empowers energetically. It's the ripple effect. So every way that I choose to honor that within myself, essentially it ripples out to my microcosm, and then eventually it ripples out to the macrocosm. So I try to always bring myself back to that and remembering am I doing enough for humanity, or am I like helping enough? Is that the changes that I make to live more optimally from my heart and honor myself it's not being selfish. It's actually helping others to live their truth. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself is to live your truth so that you can inspire others to do that, even if it's within your small microcosm, which will eventually affect the microcosm. So I think that's the biggest for me, because that is the hardest thing for people to do, is to live their truth. And whatever that looks like, whether it's in a relationship, in their career, you know, how they choose to show up every day, is just standing in your truth. So.
Yeah, ditto. So great. That's so great. Yeah, I love that. And that explanation about, the ripple effect, I think is really a good one, because it's not something that the average woman considers. They consider, I'm supposed to be helping people. I'm a natural caregiver and nurturer. So that's what I'm doing. So, no, my kid needs me, or,
Right.
my sister needs me, or my mom needs me, or my friend needs me, and I have to be there. And I think we do have to choose ourselves first.
Right.
Absolutely, hands down, and get our needs met, so that we can do some of that other work as well.
Right.
I guess that's the ripple, right? Yeah, and then we really are just behaving as we are, as who we are.
Yeah, we can't, operating from a full cup rather than a half full cup, but also we don't realize, and then our over wanting to help other people or caretake, like we're actually enabling maybe some of their subconscious beliefs or limiting beliefs around not being able to do their own healing work, right? Because we keep giving, or helping. But really, with us standing up for ourselves, we're really kind of energetically forcing them to actually take a look at themselves too, in a very subtle way. But also, like for my son, like I want him to be able to stand in his truth and use his voice, just because I see him as a child, like he's very confident in certain situations about himself, but in others he's not. So like, how can I empower him with the tools to be able to use his voice, because he's not like everybody else, and so how can you express that with no fear, and with love, and with confidence, and be able to share who you truly are with people without being fearful of how people are going to look at you or what they're going to say about you, And so him seeing me do that is going to help him as he grows, without me having to even do anything or say anything to him, So I try to bring myself back to that too, the mom.
Yeah, role model. Yeah, a bit of a different role, but it's it's pretty powerful for sure. Yeah, and a good lesson, I think, for us as women.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last question that I always ask of everybody, and that is, what is one fun or funny thing about you that you will share that you don't normally share?
One fun or funny thing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm really at my heart a very not a careless person, like careless meaning I like to do very like dangerous, spontaneous things. But I have had to suppress that a little bit over the last couple of years with being a mom. And so that's been an interesting dance for me to, because my son is like a lot of like boy energy, like I want to ride a motorcycle and a dirt bike and I want to do all these daring things. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, like can't do that because it's not safe. But like deep down inside, I'm like, yes, let's do that, So I'm always dancing with everyone around here about, how to, going back to leading by example. Not being as spontaneous as I would maybe like to be at certain moments because of, keeping myself safe for my son.
Yeah. Well, I get that, but you know what? I would imagine that will change too. The older he gets, the stronger he gets. Yeah. Oh, that's fun. So what are some of the things that you like to do? We won't tell your son right now. We'll save that for later.
Well, like I took my my now wife, when we were dating, and I took her, she always wanted to skydive. So I took her skydiving for like our third date. And, she was like, you want to come with me? And I'm like, I want to watch you, because like, but those are things that I like doing and want to experience in life. But like, there's that mom part of me that's like, I gotta stay, you know what I mean? Like, I can't be doing these different things, riding things really fast, like motorcycles and sports cars and things like that. Being a little careless with those things, but I can't really, I can, but I'm saving that for later, for my 50s.
Right.
My son's in college.
When he's in college,
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. And then he'll be into so much that you'll have to just keep up with him.
Right.
So did you just say that you took your now wife, sent her to skydive, and you didn't? You watched her?
Yeah, I sat there and watched her do the skydiving because she said it was something that she always wanted to do. And I'm like, okay, well, how about I take you tomorrow? And then there was no one to videotape the landing or anything like that. So I'm like, I'm going to stay here and videotape and watch you land. So, but you had to do it tandem. You couldn't do it by yourself. You have to have an instructor strapped on your back.
Yeah.
So,
too funny. Yeah. Have you done it before yourself?
Not yet. No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. That's even funnier. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I'm not sure if that had been me, I'm not sure that I would have done it.
Yeah. I always wanted to do it. I definitely, my son wants to do it too. So I'm like, when you get a little older, we'll go together and do it as much as you want.
Yeah. A trio. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Well, Tanya, this has been really great talking to you. Good conversation. And we learned a lot. Listeners learned a lot for sure. So yeah, thank you so much for coming out and sharing yourself with us. Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks for talking with me this morning, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. So listeners, as you know, I always want to thank you for showing up, and listeners and watchers, sorry. And remind you that just showing up is kicking your own ass, which is a little bit about what Tanya was talking about, just in different terms, I think. Right. Take some responsibility for your experiences, and by showing up, that's exactly what you did today. So, and I know we all learned a lot from Tanya. And remember that all the links, website links, are in the show notes for the podcast, and they will be in the they'll also be available then when you see this on YouTube. So thanks again. Thank you, Tanya. Many blessings, and take care, guys. We'll talk to you later. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.